Good morning. Today's presentation is overview of process safety requirements for manufacturing facilities. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes, so please hold on while we wait for some other people to join in. We will start in about 2 minutes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. Our presentation overview, process safety requirements for manufacturing facilities, will start in about 2 minutes. As we wait for others to join us, again, in about 2 minutes, we will start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. We will start our presentation on overview process safety requirements for manufacturing facilities in about 1 minute as we're waiting for others to join in. Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for attending today Sigma-HSE's webinar on an overview of process safety requirements for manufacturing facilities. Why are we here today? The problem. As of 2024, the total number of workplace fires, explosions in the United States is estimated to be around 3,300 incidents annually. Workplace fires and explosions are responsible for 100 deaths and 1,100 injuries a year, with an estimated economic impact of about $2.4 billion. As you can see, quite a large problem that we have today. First, I'd like to introduce myself. There's 2 co-presenters today, I being one. My name is Donald Nicholson. I have over 25 years of experience in the testing, inspection, and certification industry. I've served on various committee roles for leading standard development organizations, which include NFPA, ASTM, TIA, UL Standards Development Committee, and BICSI. I've also served on several boards of directors for various testing, inspection, and certification companies. My co-presenter, Mark Yukich, has approximately 10 years of experience in process safety pertaining to combustible dust consulting, training and testing, mitigation of flammable vapors, and thermal reaction safety hazards. He provides a very consultative approach to pinpointing an effective path towards reducing risk within a plant facility. So both of us will be co-presenting today. But first, just a little bit about Sigma-HSE. We are your process safety partner. We have global locations in the United States, the United Kingdom, and also in India. But you can find our global staff almost anywhere around the world. Wherever you need us, we will be there. The way we look at process safety management is kind of in three different buckets: consulting solutions, testing solutions, and training solutions. I won't go through all of the subcategories there, but you can see quite a few of them if you look through. And our global team of engineering specialists and technical experts work with companies around the world to provide actionable solutions to protect, enhance, and optimize different processes. Why process safety management? Well, quite frankly, this is important stuff. You don't want to have a day or have a look like these two people, these poor people that we see on the screen. So Sigma-HSE helps you protect your people, your customers, your bottom line, and your brands. Very important stuff. Here's our presentation outline for today. We're going to go through process safety management, PSM, which we'll be calling it going forward. Does your facility fall under PSM? Do you need this? How would you know? We're going to tell you about that. A risk management plan. Do you have one? Environmental and occupational health and safety regulations. Do you know them? Are you following them? Safety instrumented systems. Do you need one for your facility? Should you have one in place? Emergency preparedness and response. Are you fully prepared and ready to respond? And last but not least, do you have a true practicing safety culture within your organization? And now I'm going to turn it over to my co-presenter, Mark. Go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate the introduction. Well, jumping right in, first off, we want to just take a look at what determines if your facility falls under the PSM requirement or not. Well, the first step is you want to determine what chemicals are listed. You can look to the chemicals listed in the OSHA Appendix A of the PSM standard. And in there, you want to check to see if you have those chemicals and are they at or above the threshold planning quantity, or TPQ, that's noted within that standard. So you want to start off by creating that inventory of all your chemicals at the facility and those quantities. Compare that to the list. And this list is noted in pounds, which when some examples of common of chemicals are chlorine at 1,500 pounds, fluorine 1,000 pounds, hydrogen chloride 5,000 pounds, just to name a few. If the quantity of hazardous chemicals on site meets or exceeds these quantities, well, then you fall under PSM. And PSM also applies to facilities that process flammable liquids, gases in quantities of 10,000 pounds or more. Some industries that typically fall under PSM are chemical manufacturing, refrigeration systems using ammonia, water and wastewater treatment facilities. Now, if your facility is not falling under PSM, this discussion will still be helpful to you, because using the framework of a risk management plan will help anyone elevate the safety in any manufacturing process, regardless of your PSM qualification. Now, quantities can vary due to their context and regulation. So extremely hazardous substances have threshold quantities that they are either 500 pounds or whatever's within that OSHA list, but the determining factor is whichever value is lower. So there are special exemptions that are called special thresholds within the standard. An example are like ones that are available for retail gas stations that will allow for higher amounts of fuel to be on site. Now, some of those some other exemptions are retail facilities, with the most common income coming from chemical sales, processing hydrocarbon fuels used solely for heating and refueling, oil and gas drilling operations, and normally unoccupied remote facilities. You also want to be aware of some local differences to the code, where they may be more stringent. For example, in California, they have a code with their own maximum allowable quantities. Now that you know your facility falls under PSM, a comprehensive process safety management program is required. Now, in the OSHA standard, there's something called the 14 pillars of safety that are listed here. Now, we won't be going through all of these, but this just gives you an idea of all of them, but we're going to go dig into a few others, some of the highlights of those. Earlier, we talked about documenting the chemicals on site and the quantities of those materials, and if they meet or exceed the amounts noted. And in addition, we will cover the importance of having employee participation, the gathering of your facility's process safety information, a process hazard analysis, options to consider, the development of written operational procedures, training, and other standard operating procedures. Let's take a look at the core components of a risk management plan. The core components of a risk management plan should start with a hazard assessment that will determine the impact should a chemical release or reaction occur. So how will this event cause any health-related issues to your personnel as well as the neighbors of your facility? What steps can be taken to act quickly to minimize such a release? Also, the reputation of the company would be at stake with such an event taking place, but the safety of the people are always the first priority. The next component is the development of a prevention program. So in this item, we would consider some measures to prevent an accident from occurring and considering multiple layers of protection in the event one of those other protective measures should fail. It's advisable to have more than one safeguard. The other component is establishing an emergency response program. This piece of your program brings to light the importance of working with your local emergency agencies, establish a plan, and ensure a clear understanding of how your team will react in the case of an event. In the event of an emergency, personnel should have their roles, and it is helpful for the outside emergency crew to know the type of materials that are in your process while they're making their way to the location following the report of an event. So for example, if you have a water reactive sample, it's helpful for them to know ahead of time that they should be using the correct extinguishing agent once they arrive on the scene. So an important area to cover during your review is being aware of areas to keep you compliant with important safety standards and regulations that you may fall under. Some of these areas of compliance to consider are environmental and OSHA standards and other government standards. It's important to have a common understanding of safety regulations that your facility will fall under. State and local regulations all need to be considered within your process program. As a reminder, don't only focus on those national standards, because remember those local standards may actually be more stringent than the wider ranging ones. Some hazard analysis options to consider: process hazards analysis, or PHA, which is a systematic approach to identify and analyze hazards associated within a process that are handling hazardous chemicals, flammable vapors, and combustible dust materials. Now, when dust is one of those hazardous materials, that portion is considered now a dust hazards analysis. Prior to NFPA 652 being released, the DHA was simply referenced as a PHA. Another option is a HAZOP, layer of protection analysis, or LOPA. The LOPA is designed to identify those gaps where you determine a need to implement safety instrumented systems, or SIS, that are designed to be part of a multiple layer of protections to maintain a safe working environment within the process when a failure of one of those SIS components takes place. There are other mitigation strategies implemented that are designed to keep the line safe, and we will talk about those more in just a moment. Another method is to conduct a failure mode and effects analysis, or FMEA. This is a structured way to identify and address potential problems or failures and the resulting effects of the process before that event occurs. Alternatively, a root cause analysis is a structured way to address problems after they occur. And we talked about safety instrumented systems and layers of protection. Safety instrumented systems, they're designed to detect unsafe conditions and will shut down or bring the process within a tolerable safety zone designed to prevent accidents from and to protect your personnel at the facility. An example of this is an operation that is operating under nitrogen or argon, designed to keep oxygen levels below their reactivity levels, also known as inerting the process line. The operation will either shut down or make the appropriate adjustments automatically to bring oxygen levels down to acceptable levels. If your process line is using this system, testing for the limiting oxygen concentration, or LOC, of the flammable vapors or combustible dust within your system, it's an important step to be sure of the safety levels established. Testing will verify your data instead of basing your safety guidance on assumptions made through experience or that of literature data that may be available. Now, OSHA does not mandate the use of safety instrumented systems, but does require employers to implement measures that will control hazards with the process. Any of the SIS items that are used within the process, they need to be documented, including the design codes and standards. The safeguards must be in compliance with recognized and generally accepted good engineering practice. Written operating procedures must be implemented to safely conduct activities within the facility. There is a mechanical integrity component of PSM that requires regular testing and inspection. The next step is to prepare for a potential emergency and how to respond and how to respond effectively. PSM facilities, they're required to establish and implement an emergency action plan that covers planned components, such as pre-emergency planning and coordination with potential outside parties. Establish clear personnel roles that will encompass lines of authority and written communication procedures. These procedures will include evacuation routes and standard procedures for possible fires or extreme weather conditions. An example of this is developing a clear fire evacuation procedure by communicating a central location outside your facility where your team will meet at a safe distance away. This will allow for a predetermined safety team to quickly confirm that all are accounted for. Another note to stress with your team is to leave immediately without gathering anything prior to exiting the facility. These steps should be practiced on a regular basis by working with local safety personnel and following up with any critique of response and any action items that need follow-up. Other items to consider is to be sure that your personnel are equipped with appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE, along with the appropriate emergency equipment that may be needed during a possible event taking place. So an example of this, if you're working in a metal fabrication facility, having a Class D fire extinguisher needs to be nearby. The implementation of these plans will need to be in writing and made available to the employees as well as outside emergency responders. The local responders must be in agreement with these written procedures. The plan needs to be reviewed periodically and updated as needed. It's key to create a plan that will be active and not only just sit on a shelf once it's been written. Some other key considerations: employees must be trained on emergency procedures, including evacuation routes and what role they play. And drills should be conducted to test the plan's effectiveness. It's important to instill a safety culture that has an eye towards continuous improvement of the safety plans in place by embedding safety into the organizational structure, by having a daily focus on creating a clear culture of safety at all levels within your facility. One tactic to consider is establishing an objective of having your leadership team opening any team meetings by opening the discussion by bringing up any relevant safety topics. This opportunity will allow your team to openly talk about any near misses or other safety training opportunities that are going to be designed to help keep them safe and the team aware of any possible ways of preventing major accidents from occurring. There's a 5-stage model that classifies your current level of a safety culture. Going from the lowest to the highest, we started pathological, where safety is thought to be a burden throughout the facility. The next is a reactive level, where improvement is based on external pressures. The next is a calculative level, where safety is only managed through systems and procedures. And starting to improve on this model, we move into proactive, where culture is now where safety is integrated into its core values. And the highest level is generative, where safety has become a natural part of the organization. To maintain this, it is important to have a good management of change to be sure you keep this level as relevant and in action as possible as roles change over time. Some items to keep in mind in order to achieve a culture of safety: you want to set tangible goals for global process safety. You want to benchmark your progress against industry best practice. Design assessment approaches that will monitor performance in between audits, and having continuous improvement within your PSM that will enhance safety culture over time. Don, I'll send it back over to you.
Thanks, Mark, and great job. So kind of to summarize what we just went through, does your facility fall under PSM? We reviewed the process safety management program. Do you have a risk management plan? Is it in place? Have you practiced it? Are you using it? Are you ready for an OSHA or other governmental audits that might happen to your facility? Should you deploy a safety instrumented system? Do you have an emergency preparedness and response plan? And do you practice a safety culture at your business? So here we come back to our two people that we definitely don't want to ever have this look when it comes to safety, that's for sure. But Sigma helps you protect a lot of the things that we went through today. But from an overall standpoint, your people, your customers, your bottom line, I mean, safety does pay at the end of the day, it really does. And very important, your brand. So let Sigma-HSE help you become prepared, if you're not, to check to see if you're prepared, and to help you throughout that process. We do have some time for questions. I think you can enter them into the chat. If anybody is interested, we'd sure like to hear your questions. And actually, Mark, we do have one that came in. To me, it looks like a conventional wisdom question, which is kind of an interesting one and somewhat funny. It is, we have multiple materials within our process, and we have some staff that have been here for a very long time, over 20 years, and they tell us we've never had a problem. Does that clear us for the need for a hazards review?
Oh, many times I've heard that one. We've never had a problem, right? Yeah, I think the best way to approach that, to me, is I always tell someone who's telling me that there's never been a problem here is, well, then let's prove it. And if you can run some tests and determine that you don't in fact have reactive chemicals, vapors, or dust within your process, then you're doing great. But until that testing or some kind of data is there to back it up, I wouldn't be trusting that kind of. I'd rather know why there hasn't been a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question we have is, does a HAZOP provide guidance on the safety instruments that should be considered for our facility?
Yeah, it certainly does, because what that's doing is that during that HAZOP, they're taking into account the hazards that are currently present, recommendations to reduce risk based on the current setup, and within that process, we would be able to provide some recommendations of some other safeguards that should be considered to reduce that risk. So, yeah, we have plenty of resources that we can point our customers to. We'd rather give them put them in the right direction and with people that we know and trust that can help them out with the appropriate resources that are going to help them.
Okay. I don't see that we have any other questions. Unless somebody has one, they can enter it now. But I want to thank everybody for attending our overview today of PSM and remind you that Sigma-HSE offers a broad range of process safety services to meet your business needs. Make sure you're prepared, and thank you for your time. Good day.